sorry, but this is so performative. Like, are we giving ICE a show or are we protesting?
Those people are protesting and they are doing a better job at it than you are. I'm sorry. I know that comes across as harsh, but just give me a second. I'm going to explain myself. So one of my favorite people on this app, and he's a very good friend of mine as well, is Robbie Roadsteamer. And he essentially dresses up as sharks or giraffes and goes to protests or to counter protests or to rallies and sings songs about how Trump is on the Epstein list. And I've gone to multiple different events with him. I'll tag him in the comments, but if you see any of his videos, he seems like this very bombastic personality, but when you talk to him behind the scenes, he's very earnest and thoughtful about the things that he chooses to do. And he talked about this. He said, there's two main things that I'm trying to do at a counter protest. The first is that he recognizes that the people who the fascists are appealing to really just want a good show. See, Donald Trump is a showman, and what he understood is that there was a large swath of disaffected voters who didn't see politics as reality. They saw it as a game, and he knew how to play that game, and he knew how to speak to them. And so in a lot of ways, the MAGA movement is sort of gravitated towards Trump's bravado, and they sort of like seeing people getting pissed off. It's sort of fun to them. And Robbie's going in with this mentality that anything that they're going to say to him is not going to make him mad, because essentially then they win. Then they go home and they feel good about themselves and they continue voting for Trump. But if you can spin it where it feels like they're joining essentially a party, then suddenly they will swap sides on a dime. I think critics would say that this is disingenuous and that you are converting an unreliable voter base. And I would say that those critics tend to lose to Donald Trump, because he's gone to so many rallies where Groypers start out pointing and yelling at him, and then they end the event singing a song about how Donald Trump is a pedophile, because really they just want a good time. And that's the unfortunate reality of a lot of these people. And I have a completely different approach at these events. I know I can't be the person who gets on a megaphone and starts singing and gets a whole crowd of people to join in with me. Like, I'm that policy wonk who cares about redistricting and 2026 predictions and how specifically we can impeach Donald Trump. And it's so easy to be the person who sort of turns my nose up at people like Robbie to go, what they're doing is so surface level, but we are complementary forces of the same movement. It reminds me a lot of this movie, The Trial of the Chicago 7, where it depicts anti-Vietnam War activists Tom Hayden and Abby Hoffman. And Tom Hayden is this policy wonk who wants the war to end, and he's so aggravated at Abby Hoffman because he feels like he's making a game out of this and trivializing it. And Abby's like, dude, I am paying for this entire operation simply from the donations that are being pulled through my advocacy. He's like, don't dismiss what I'm doing because my audience is 10 times as large as the audience who's willing to sit down and read the article that you last wrote. Anyway, the second thing that Robbie does really well is provoking without antagonizing. And that is fucking key to a protest. Let me tell you a story. March 7, 1965, Martin Luther King Jr. organizes a protest from Selma to Montgomery. Dr. King knew how important it was for two things to happen. The first, no one brings weapons. And the second, there are cameras rolling. And he gets 600 people to walk defenselessly from Selma to Montgomery. And what happens is called Bloody Sunday, when cops beat the shit out of 600 black people. And what's important and what Dr. King knew is perception matters, because every single person in America saw this happening on their television screen. And every single person couldn't say, well, the cops were just defending themselves. And 2 weeks later, Dr. King tried the march again, but this time he didn't have 600 people, he had 25,000. People flew in to come join the protest, and they bothered LBJ so much he had to mobilize the National Guard because their governor refused to protect them. And 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed. Now, I'm obviously simplifying history here, but I do think that the lessons from Selma need to be learned. ICE wants you to fight back, because then they have an excuse to kill you. And as we found out, they don't need that excuse. I don't know if you've seen the reactions to Renee Good, but a lot of Republicans are breaking from ICE after they saw that video, because she knew how to protest. She knew how to get in the way of ICE while respectfully saying, that's fine, dude, I'm not mad at you. She knew that everyone needed to have their cameras out. Anyway, I know that it's easy to say that when people are protesting nonviolently, they just don't care enough. Because in a lot of ways, I think Martin Luther King Jr. was whitewashed extremely where he's sort of portrayed as someone who was just saying, hey guys, let's just get along. He advocated for nonviolent responses in such a strategic manner. And it really sucks to see a lot of people here online who haven't learned the lessons that we learned 60 years ago. Thanks for watching. Follow for more, I guess.